Welcome to another episode of Digital 2.0, the modern digital executive interview series that we've been hosting here at Prime TSR. Today with us, I got Alex Chimon joining us to talk about his experience and some of the views of Digital 2.0. So, Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you. Today I'm with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois. So I work with them focusing on our digital strategies in terms of where we need to go and how we are going to drive better consumer outcomes for our members and consumers as we move forward into our digital journey.
Awesome. And that's perfect because that's exactly what we're talking about today, right? That digital journey and trying to figure out where we're going. Before we get into the future and what you're up to and kind of hear some of your thoughts, let's talk a little bit about the past. You've been in IT and you've been working with organizations like this at a high level for a while. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned about transforming companies and helping them on that digital journey?
I have two lenses when I look at, I'm going to call it digital transformation. A lot of organizations are trying to say that they want to transform, but they're really not transforming, right? They're really more evolving is the way I describe it. However, there are needs in certain areas to truly transform. When you look at someone like a print company that used to print newspapers and magazines, they truly had to transform digitally. That's what I call true transformation. Then there is what I'm going to call micro transformations within organizations. When you look at an organization and say McDonald's, right? Let's leverage them as the example, right? McDonald's is a hamburger company. They have a bunch of technology and a bunch of stuff that's in place that they use to drive where they're going and so forth. And they come in and say, hey, we want to do this digital transformation. Well, the transformation is not really the full digital lens of that transformation. It's really, they want to transform a division, or they want to transform a specific experience, right? Which is, to me, different than a true digital transformation. When you look at a true, I'm going to call it macro digital transformation at an organization, it's not how am I building my technology? It's how am I changing my business? How am I changing the thinking within the organization and the leadership alignment across the organization to really drive where things need to go? When I think digital, right? Digital to me, it's a combination of technology and it's a combination of engagement, right? How are you engaging and connecting with your consumers, if you want to call them consumers? When you talk about most places, the transformation has been more, hey, we want to transform our technology. We need to go into the cloud. We need big data. We need analytics. We need metrics and so forth. That's a small part of what actual digital transformation is. What you really need is you need executive buy-in. You need to make sure that you have a clear message around this is where we're trying to go and this is what we're trying to do and how we're doing it and why we're doing it. You know, what's your why around where you're trying to go from a digital lens, and ensure that you have that buy-in from top down. And a lot of times you have to go top down, bottom up, because you can have leadership that's coming in and saying, hey, we're going to go digital, rah, rah, rah. All right, let's do it. Everybody below is going to be like, we're already digital. Why are we doing this? What's this mean? And so forth. And they may not understand when the leader's saying we need to go digital. As a CEO, CTO, whoever, they're not realizing when they're saying that, they're saying, hey, I need my salespeople to think more digitally. I need my product people to think more digitally. I need my customer service people to think more digitally versus, oh, we got to build these platforms, these APIs and so forth. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag of you got to go top down, bottom up and make sure everybody is on the same page. If not, and this is what happens in 85% of digital transformations fail. And they fail because you don't have full buy-in and you don't have a clear vision of where that's going and what that means for the organization. From a lessons learned, those are things that I've learned. And I've even gotten into organizations saying, hey, we're not doing a transformation. Forget the term transformation. It's a digital evolution. Let's call it that. And let's look at the things that we need to update and modify as we go through. And if there's true transformations, it's not a large transformation. It's, hey, I got to transform the way these people are thinking, defining the way we do business. Whenever I hear people talk about, I'm going to call it the old definition of digital transformation, right? When you need to transform, you need to create APIs and go into the cloud. That's a technical transformation, but that's not a digital transformation.
And you actually hit on a couple of notes that I really loved there. First and foremost, digital transformation is an evolution. It's a constant evolution. That's part of the reason, we kick this off as Digital 2.0. It's a constant iteration on that process to make sure that we're always going back to the idea. But then the biggest piece that I think I love that you called out here, though, is it's not just technical. That transformation has to happen throughout the org. It's a cultural transformation. It's a technical transformation. It's process transformation. And I keep on using the word transformation, but it's really, again, that evolution from how we used to do things to how we want to really present ourselves and how we want to execute on our visions going forward. When we talk about the terms of innovation, transformation, modernization, digitalization, you touched on the digital transformation being more of that evolution, but what does it actually mean to an organization?
Understanding what your consumer needs are, what your business needs are, and then what you have available. There's two parts to it. Taking what you have available and being able to leverage that to drive consumer engagement, new consumer capability, and so forth. Uber is a great example. They had the capability of being able to identify technology is already there to identify, okay, I need to get transportation from A to Z. But Uber's like, hey, that technology exists. We're just going to use it differently and engage the consumer a little bit differently, right? It's really taking the lens of understanding the consumer behavior and consumer need and breaking that down with how do you deliver that? And there are two parts innovation when you look at how you deliver that. One is there something that we have today that can drive that? And if there is, how do we bring that to life? The other part is something just doesn't exist. The technology is not there. The capability is not there. Data, whatever it might be, is not there. From that lens, what can you come up with to fill that gap? Maybe you have to create a new technology. Necessity is the mother of invention. So if there is a true need and there's a high value behind the need, we could probably build that technology. It's may not be simple, may not be easy, but that's where you start thinking about what's that next lens of that innovation. Greatest example here is, we had COVID. It happened. And, we look at innovation from a health perspective. It may not be digital, but it's still a lens of innovation. Hey, there's a technology that's 27 years old. We've been using it for things like E. coli and a couple other things. I forgot all the stuff that they used it for, but we've been using it for 27 years, just not mass, because it hasn't been proven whether or not it'll work. And, they didn't have the mass studies and so forth. And then COVID happened. Hey, we need a quick, rapid results for this. We have a solution. We already did that. Let's go down the path and figure out how we can use that, right? That's a example of using what you already have to drive that. But then when you start looking at how do we build something that new, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head and I can't at the moment because everything in my head right now is an evolution of what we already have, right? There is no brand new build of a new capability that we've come up with for quite a while. I was actually talking to a couple of buddies the other day, combustion engine. When I think about that, that's an evolution of the steam engine.
I was just talking to a buddy of mine as well. It's like even the cloud. Well, technically it's just mainframe in a different sense. Bring CPU and memory, right? Yep. It's a shared model of resources. True innovation is rare, and that's why we always celebrate those people that are true innovators in our world.
Yeah, exactly. LASIK is a great example of a true innovation because that's something where up until you had peel off the cornea, it was always a lens implant in your eye. Or even before that, just glasses like you and I wear, which great, but falls off your face and scratches and so forth.
My favorite right now, I don't know if you've seen the product, and I'm going to do the shameless plug on this one. There's eye drops to correct nearsightedness.
I was going to go get LASIK done, and I go to the doctor, and they do this whole, they're doing the exam and so forth. You won't even need to wear reading glasses later after having LASIK done because you just put these eye drops in. I'm like, what?
And this is where that iteration process, right? And where the consumer need is, and find, is there something that we have today that we can iterate on or expand? Or is it something that we truly need to go down to the drawing board and figure out the new solution? And I think that's a great definition for innovation. It's not just creating for the sake of creating. It's filling a need rather than doing it for the sake of doing it, which as technologists, right? Just playing with new technology for the sake of it being new isn't necessarily the best solution.
Exactly. I actually think our next big wave from innovation, there's two areas. One, electric vehicles. We're going to see those shift big time. And then space travel.
I'm hoping for that one. As an 8-year-old kid, you're always looking up going, wait, I can go to space? Yeah, I want to do that.
With more companies in it, not just NASA, I think that's going to be the next race. That's a whole other segue.
Future session. We'll get into that one. As you're transforming organizations, what's going to have the biggest impact on you being able to drive organizations toward this new, let's call it digital transformation, digital innovation story? Take out the crystal ball. What do you think over the next 10 years is going to have the biggest impact on your ability to impact organizations?
Yeah, so this one's a tricky one because this one's a loaded question depending on the industry that you're in and depending on how you go in, right? When I look at what we are thinking about from a digital innovation and digital in terms of engagement and whatnot, the ability or inability to get consumer data is going to be one piece of it, right? When you look at GDPR and a few other rulings and so forth, you're really getting that data is going to be, or having that data available to be able to do some of the things like personalization or true engagement and so forth gets tricky unless you're within your own ecosystem and you're building ecosystems like an Amazon, right? Amazon has their own ecosystem where they can drive that information, really capture who you are. But if you're a smaller organization, you're focused on just that niche and you're not going to have the ability to really get that information. The other one's really going to be consumer trust. As you look at how are you going to drive kind of the next iteration of what those innovations are going to be, it's having that trust in the consumers to really be able to bring that information in and drive where you're going to take them. A lot of the organizations where I've sat, there's always been a couple, I'll call blockers. Funding is always a blocker. Is the money there to do what you need to do? And then technology. Do you have the technology to drive what you need? To me, those are things you can solve relatively easily if you can get the funding, if you can get, you build the technology, so forth. But the bigger thing is really getting the consumers to come to you, drive that trust, get that right data, interconnect them appropriately, and do it in a safe and secure way. Because as we all know, hacking is coming along like crazy. Not the, I'll call it, safest world around keeping your data safe and so forth. I think a lot of the blockchain stuff will help with that. I think a lot of the cryptocurrency is going to drive online retail in a different direction, as well as what I will call general brick and mortar retail. It's also going to change how some of those work when you start thinking about being able to pay for your Tesla with Bitcoin and how that works and so forth. It's a combination of data, trust, and then technology innovation.
I couldn't have summarized it better. Realistically speaking, it's still all about the data within any transformation. The data that drives us, whether it's the consumers engaging with us or telling us what they need, or the data that we use to provide back to them. It's still a key core concept that we need to make sure we have an eye on because it still drives out all the decisions we make. What are the companies that surprise you the most or least realistically when it comes to their digital innovation journey over the last few years?
If I say the most, how you have kind of that seamless digital engagement. Home Depot is the one that I always love. I'm a big DIY person and so forth, and I have more tools than my wife likes. When you look at how your engagement end to end, and there's still gaps, right? Home Depot has a lot of work they still need to do, but the end-to-end engagement around buying online, going to the store, returns, how you can keep an eye on what you've got and where you're going and so forth with them. That whole process, I think the way they put that together is very streamlined, seamless, still gaps, still issues, and then more room for innovation and so forth there. They've done a great job. But when I start looking at more of that personalized touch, Stitch Fix is a very impressive one. And what they put along with how they've built their online purchase clothes and so forth. I mean, they have figured my wife down to the T around what kind of clothes she likes, what works well for her based off of feedback, and then the styles and so forth. And they're one that really impresses me from that personalized, innovative view.
I have to agree with that one too. My mother loves Stitch Fix at this point, and it's like she logs in and she goes, "Oh yeah, I need all 50 of these things that they're recommending for me now."
Yeah, exactly.
We've got one last quick segment here. Really, it's just a hype reel or a WTF. I mean, we're going to give you a couple of different subjects. You give us our quick first impressions on it. We like having fun with this just because it's interesting on some of the thoughts that come along with them. Okay, you ready?
Sure.
AI.
That I would say is real. AI is going to really drive where a lot of our engagement goes and how we drive the intelligent moving forward in a lot of spectrum.
The metaverse.
Metaverse, I want to say real, but at the same time, WTH has great opportunity, but at the same time, very short-sighted in current states. Crypto has huge opportunity, completely useless until it's monetary backed. My opinion, it's got great opportunity, but until it has some monetary backing or some way of actually validating that it's going to be secure, people aren't going to trust it.
Elon Musk. Controversial, but a fun one.
I think he's brilliant. What he's come up with, controversial or not, where he's brought us on the EV side, where he's gotten us on the space side, acquisition of Twitter. There's a much bigger picture that everyone's not seeing right now that he's putting in place. And I actually see, for another conversation, one or two more acquisitions that are going to tie to the Twitter that's going to change a lot of where he's trying to go.
Love it. And the last one here, remote and hybrid work.
This needed. It's hands down. Like if we don't think remote and hybrid future wise, we are limiting our companies and organizations in terms of the talent that is out there, right? So, the people don't always want to move from where they're at. They're happy where they are. But at the same time, there is talent all over the globe not just in the US. Sometimes you have to stick to the US, but not just in the US. But to really, really tap into that really intelligent talent that's out there, you need to start thinking more remote. Hybrid is important to really give people kind of that flexibility, the fact that work-life balance, because we're always working these days. So you need that hybrid. But if you're not thinking remote, you're actually losing out on some great talent that's out there.
Love it. All right, Alex, thank you so much for all your time today. We'll give you a couple minutes here just to give us a quick blurb. Tell us a little bit more about yourself if you'd like, how people can get in contact with you if you'd like. Basically, open floor for you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. No, so I appreciate the time, Jeremy. This is actually a great conversation. If people want to get a hold of me, there's two easy ways to get a hold of me. One, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn.com, Alexander Chimon. You can reach me through Gmail, achimon@gmail.com. Also check out my article. I actually wrote an article that what we were talking here about transformation or evolution, really leaning more towards evolution. I wrote the article. It's posted up on LinkedIn, soon to be posted up on, I believe we're going on HBR is where it's going to be coming out on. And then really focusing on more what I'm going to call not transformation, but more the evolution, and then how, what I like to say is drive the wow experience to consumers. That's kind of my end state goal and what I like to be able to do, right? If I can make my eyes pop and be like, hey, my dad did that, and that's amazing, that's really my driver and where I like to go.
I love it.